Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It's NMeade here as always. April 2020 is now in the books, which means we have a new month to review for world records. The month of April 2020 was insane for Mario Kart Wii world records, with 18 world records across 8 tracks, tying October 2018's activity. Let's get started. Kicking off this month, we had some improvements on Toad's Factory No Glitch. Luke improved his own world record here first on April 4th by just 2 milliseconds with a time of 1:49.324. The very next day, Luke had a much larger improvement, breaking into the 1:49.2 territory for the first time with a time of 1:49.245. Luke's world record here before April 2020 was a 1:49.326 that was set over 2 years ago on March 31st of 2018. The weakest link in his former world record was his lap 3 in particular, and Luke provided some feedback regarding both new records now, which ties into the time save over his 1:49.326 on lap 3. For the 1:49.324, Luke comments this is probably the least satisfied he's felt with a record improvement. Luke said laps 1 and 2 had bad shroomless shortcuts, and he was over 100 milliseconds behind the 1:49.326, heading into the straight after the second turn, with the only reason he beat the time was due to getting a full chain wheelie and a very good shroomless cut to finish his run. For Luke's 1:49.245, Luke comments the run overall had better driving than his former world record and had a better shroomless cut on lap 1. But the shroomless cut on lap 2 was high, and the lap 3 shroomless cut had a bounce landing before it, which lost quite a bit. During this time in April, when he was trying to improve his record here, he was aiming for a 1:49.1, but he ended up dropping it after a while due to the difficulty of achieving that time. And honestly, I really don't blame Luke at all for setting this to rest where it is right now. A low 1:49.2 here is already an insane accomplishment as it is, with this new world record being less than 200 milliseconds off the current best known splits, which add up to a time of 1:49.054. And a little bit of a bonus for those of you who have never seen this played before, with the last world record improvement being over 2 years ago now. The shroom strategy is 2-1-0. The reason you're using your mushrooms right away in the very beginning of lap 1 at this speed is to barely beat the Sompers on lap 1. The goal on Toad's Factory for this category is to avoid the need to hop around the Sompers if at all possible. At this speed, laps 2 and 3 do not pose any problems with the Somper cycles, and you can use the remaining mushroom on lap 2 at the box section to cancel out the chain wheelie, and this also allows you to beat the Somper by a large margin on lap 3 with how fast players are now. Great job here, Luke, and congrats on your improvements here this month. Next up, we head over to DS Yoshi Falls. David came back to Yoshi Falls this month, reclaiming the world record from Breakson and improving a second time as well. On April 9th, David would reclaim the world record, beating Breakson by 25 milliseconds with a time of 58.722. And like Luke on Toad's Factory, he improved a second time 1 day later on April 10th by 3 milliseconds with a time of 58.719. The last time David held DS Yoshi Falls was his 58.775 world record he set on October 15th, 2018, which lasted 221 days at the time before Breakson beat his record. Starting off with his first improvement, David comments lap 1 overall was solid with no notable mistakes, and classifies laps below a 19.650 with the mini turbo strategy into lap 2 as decent enough to run with. Lap 2 had an accidental rehop entering the shroom, but feels that apart from it sending him slightly wider for the turn itself, he doesn't feel this lost all that much time. He had a slight nudge right at the end of the bridge this lap, which again was a very slight time loss. Lap 3, David comments he had an extremely low second waterfall, where he ended up going very wide as a result, which lost him time. But his main turbo thereafter was very quick. At the end, right before crossing the finish line, he had to do the slightest wheelie nudge to not crash into the wall, judging by how close he was. David says it was a 50-50 judgment call in his head whether he would hit the wall or not, and notes the hitbox for this corner is very deceiving, sometimes hitting it when it seems like you're a good enough distance away not to. David decided to nudge anyway, knowing he was comfortably on world record pace and not being prepared to throw the run away for the sake of a few milliseconds, especially with the amount of time he was putting into reclaiming the world record here. David closes this run noting the lap 3 is the weakest lap in this run compared to laps 1 and 2. Now reviewing his latest improvements to 58.719, David mentions regarding the splits of this run, they are very similar to his 58.722 run this month. Lap 1 had an acceptable split, but notes the waterfall recovery was poor. He regards lap 2 as a very mediocre split due to going into the first turn much further left than he would have liked, and his turn before the second waterfall was very wide. He notes lap 3 was very disappointing at the time as he thought the split was better than a 19.472, even thinking he secured a 58.6 time with that in mind. He notes he hit a 19.399 lap 3, and he typically averages low to mid 19.4 lap 3s with drop chain wheelies in his attempts, with his best lap 3 with a drop chain wheelie before the finish line being a 19.412. With that said, he feels the high 19.4 lap 3s are disappointing, with having full chains for them in both runs, but does acknowledge the nerves he can have on this track in particular. Just looking at this comparison again, it is insane how the slightest wheelie turn was the determining factor for this improvement versus his former improvement. David's newest improvement this month is barely over 250 milliseconds behind the best known splits that equal 59.464 as of today's upload date. Awesome stuff! Congratulations David on reclaiming the world record here this month with your 2 improvements. Now we head to another DS track that was improved this month, DS Peach Gardens. On April 14th, King Alex would claim the world record here for the first time, beating Brett's former world record of 159.217, set on February 21st, 2019, by 21 milliseconds, with a time of 159.196. King Alex would have 2 more improvements this month, on April 20th improving by 4 milliseconds, with a time of 159.192, and 8 days after that on April 28th, improving slightly more by 9 milliseconds this time with a time of 159.183. DS Peach Gardens has had quite an interesting world record history in years past. World records here use manual drift up until the beginning of 2010, where Brett would introduce automatic drift being viable here and getting into 159 territory along the way. In 2012, Yasha would switch the world record back to manual drift mode, after some additional strategies implemented for manual drift spear driving here. From then on, manual drift mode will be dominant until 2019, where Brett came back and proved once more the viability of automatic drift mode here with some newer, updated automatic driving strategies. An interesting thing to note is during that entire history I outlined, Brett is the only person to ever set world records here with automatic drift. With King Alex's world records here this month, he becomes the only other person to set world records here with automatic drift. King Alex mentions he has been intermittently trying this course on and off with automatic drift for a little bit less than a year, and as mentioned before, he has had pointers from Brett as he tried pushing his time down further, getting closer to the world record level here. He adds that this track is such a precise track with automatic, and it's so easy to lose a run with nerves here, and I can definitely see why. For those unaware, in automatic drift, you cannot hop or charge main turbos with driving. However, the benefit of automatic is when you're in a wheelie, you can do the slightest wheelie adjustments without breaking your wheelie altogether, and you don't lose speed. That's the most important part, unlike doing this in manual drift. In an automatic drift, if you turn just a little bit too hard one way or another, you cancel your wheelie altogether. And just look at the hedge mazes for these runs. You have to constantly tap either direction to keep your entire wheelie line here without breaking it. I can only begin to imagine the nerves trying to navigate this hedge maze here on lap 3, among other strategies you have to do here. Starting off with Alex's first world record, He mentions the 159.196 was probably one of the most special world records he has hit because he did it live on stream, being the only world record he set live before. For this run in particular, he figured this run was dead entering lap 3 as the pace wasn't great. His goal at this point was just to hit something decent to finish this run on stream for the boys watching, thinking it'd be a 159.3 at best. He did not expect to hit the world record with this run, while also setting a new best known split for lap 3 in the process. Alex states the 159.192 had the cleanest driving of all 3 of his world records here this month, but it does not get many stair clips and says he gets several RNG bounces in this run. For those wondering, I'll talk about what he means by stair clips shortly. He mentions this run was off-screening the current world record of 159.183 entering the second to last turn lap 3. Then it randomly bounces, has a drop chain wheelie, and does not clip the staircase. This comparison was crazy when recording this. This is a comparison of all 3 of Alex's world records this month and Brett's former world record from the perspective of the 159.183. As we can see, Alex was actually behind all 3 of these runs heading into the final sections here, after losing at least 100 to 150 milliseconds due to a wide turn exiting the hedge maze on lap 3 and unfortunately grazing some of the grass during the flower hop. An incredibly strong ending for the 159.183 ensured his improvement over these runs, as we can see by the finishing of the comparison. Alex mentions that the 159.183 gets 3 for 3 stair clips like Brett's 159.217 former world record, and both Alex and Brett consider both of these runs as joke runs in their opinions with that in mind. Now, I'll briefly detail what the stair clip is for you all. Look closely at the speedometer for these different endings here. One scenario, you land at around 90 to 91 kilometers per hour, and another scenario, you land at 95 kilometers per hour or higher in some scenarios. I had this explained not too long ago, but here's technically what's happening. If you land flush with the ground without hitting the staircase, you're accelerating as normal. However, if you barely clip the bottom lip of the staircase, it is treated differently as if you're landing on a sloped terrain, and you seemingly get a slight boost due to this. I described this in a different scenario on the N64 Bowser's Castle staircase in last month's world record review, and this can also be seen on tracks like Maple Treeway after the U-turn, getting airtime and landing on the mini bridge with your speed being shot up by a little bit. Of course, with the stair clip on DS Peach Gardens, from how precise this is, I am not sure if there really is a consistent strategy for this, just from how dynamic this transition would be, from when you initiate your wheelie and accelerating slightly before getting airborne off the top of the staircase, the angle you're heading into the straight, among other variables. In any case, this is another factor that an improvement can hinge upon, which is demonstrated nicely in these comparisons on the screen. For this track overall, Alex says there are 5 spots per lap where you can randomly bounce with automatic, all of which lose time. 2 spots before the mushroom, right after the mushroom, which is the most visually apparent in my opinion, as you can see the comparison with these runs on the screen currently. The 4th area is entering the hedge maze, and the last being on the final straight, which is also very noticeable. Apart from the precision of automatic drift, getting chain wheelies, the flower bed hop, and so on, Alex says these bounces are another reason why getting a good run here is so hard, mentioning that Brett has put it as basically rolling a die on each turn and hoping for good RNG. Ending off Alex's commentary, he says he had an agreement with Brett that if he tied his 159.217 world record, neither of them would touch the track again. Clearly by these improvements that did not happen, but Alex says he actually tied the 159.217 twice, shortly after getting the world record here, which is crazy. As of today's upload date, Alex now holds all the best known splits here, which total a time of 158.827. So a 158 theoretically can be done. It just lies in navigating around this chain chop at the end of the hedge maze on lap 3 at this point, and having a very, very strong ending to support that. What a roller coaster all of this was, my gosh. I just have to give a giant shout out to King Alex during this video. I always regard King Alex as perhaps one of the most dynamic and versatile players in our game's history since the very beginning in 2008, innovating tracks and being able to accomplish vastly different records with different playing styles. Some notable tracks being Grumble Volcano Glitch, DS Desert Hills with the Spear, Bowser's Castle Glitch with the Spear, N64 DK's Jungle Parkway with the old spiral skip strategy before Glitch was known, Mario Circuit No Glitch with the ramp, and being the first person to successfully glitch GCN Peach Beach in a world record run back in 2012. Big congratulations with finally pulling through on this track, Alex. Next up, we head to some glitch activity this month on Wario's Gold Mine. Logan claims the world record here for the first time, beating the former world record of 32.322 by McRaven that was set in December of 2019 by 118 milliseconds, with a time of 32.204 on April 15th. 4 days later, Logan managed another improvement, this time by 81 milliseconds, with a time of 32.123. Guys, check this out because this was crazy. Logan's first world record of 32.204 this month is actually Logan's first completed 3-for-3 pipe bounce run. That in itself is absolutely insane. I can't get over the novelty of that. What a wicked accomplishment that is. Logan wanted to focus on what the time saves are for the current state of Wario's Gold Mine glitch, mentioning the biggest time saves to optimize comes from the pipe bounce and the standstill mini turbo you get from the fence bounce. For the pipe bounce, getting a forward and high pipe bounce saves the most amount of time over other variants. For the fence bounce, you're colliding with the fence, spin drifting off and landing far enough in the cave to hit the last key checkpoint so that when you cross the finish line, it completes the lap. I don't know about all of you, but glitch runs here in particular are crazy to watch. You're practically shrooming semi-blind, spin drifting, and having the very end of your shroom boost get you to the inside of the pipe, and preserving momentum when hopping off the pipe to clip back through the floor. I'd like to add one more difficult thing to optimize, at least I'd think, is the speed of the mini turbo you charge when you get back through the floor. You can either soft drift this mini turbo very fast, or it takes longer depending on how the momentum takes you, as sometimes you can almost rubber band left or right briefly and have to manually charge the mini turbo rocking back and forth. Logan currently has all the best known splits, which add up to a time of 31.731. All in all, insane stuff here, Logan, and congratulations on your improvements here this month. Now we head to GCN Waluigi Stadium, where we had a big improvement here this month, with Ace returning and reclaiming the world record from Connor. On April 16th, Ace beat Connor's previous world record, set in November of 2019, by 171 milliseconds, with a time of 148.443, leaping over the 148.5 barrier and setting the first sub 148.5 time here on GCN Waluigi Stadium. Reaching out to Ace for comments regarding his run, Ace is overall very happy with the driving in this run. However, with that said, he does want to go for more, as the bad landings on the very last trick all 3 laps made him unsatisfied. And I can understand why. Getting the bad landings on any trick for a run is not fun, and getting it here all 3 laps most definitely adds up to a decent amount of time loss at this level. I'd estimate the total time loss is around 100 milliseconds, if not a tiny bit more, with a time loss of all 3 bad landings. Ace also feels his lap 3 turn skip could be improved from this run, projecting if he had 3 good landings and a better turn skip lap 3, the run could have been a high 148.2, and feels he would have left it there if he hit that specific time. Ace mentions that this run in particular is his best pace into lap 3. Major props to Ace for being able to hold out to complete the run on his own personal best pace into lap 3. It's always nerve-wracking to keep things together with that type of a pace for any track, especially at world record level. Optimally, Ace feels he could hit a 36.0 on lap 1, and for laps 2 and 3 he could hit a mid 35.7 lap. This new world record currently stands at 522 milliseconds behind the current best known splits, which total a time of 1:47.921 as of today's upload date. Ace wanted to mention he has had questions regarding a sub 148 time here, but feels this is a little extreme at the moment, and I agree with Ace here. Already a low 148.4 time here is insane, even with the aforementioned mistakes of the last trick landings and the turn skip on lap 3. This run is incredibly clean with fluid movement throughout and is very much consistent for many parts of each lap. At the moment, Ace has other tracks he'd like to achieve his goals on before properly returning to GCN Waluigi Stadium, and has intentions on going for more on this track in the near future. Congratulations on reclaiming the world record here this month, Ace. The next course to cover this month had some exciting developments during April. Mushroom Gorge No Glitch had 3 improvements in April by 3 different players, with a strategy change for this category. For quite some time now, the shroom spot for this category has been a spin drifting mushroom hop over the gorge, cutting it as far possible next to the mountainside, landing between the left mushroom stalk and the mountainside wall, then re-hopping at the right time to maintain the max speed in the wheelie when transitioning into each lap. Even slowing this down, you can see how precise this is to execute, and players have been executing this all 3 laps in previous world record runs here. This month, we saw the introduction of a different gorge cutting mushroom strategy. This is what the strategy looks like. As far as I am aware, and people who may know more than I do can correct me in the comments below if I'm wrong, this method of not hopping for the gorge cut is not particularly new and has been used in online play for a while now, which helps to prevent being bumped in mid-air by other players in online play specifically. I believe some players already have personal bests here with this shroom strategy in the past, but it has not been pushed to its maximum until this month. Several players started time trialing this more intently with this mushroom strategy heading into April, and started pushing just how far this mushroom strategy can go. On April 22nd, Blaze improved upon his own world record by 8 milliseconds, with a time of 1:41.248. Blaze himself did not use his hopless gap mushroom method in his run, but used the normal spin drifting mushroom gap strategy as he did in his former world record of 1:41.256 he set almost 2 years ago now on May 17th of 2018. Blaze's main comment regarding this run was simply that he missed the mushroom skip on lap 3, which lost him a bit of time. And for those wondering, from what I found out this month, getting the mushroom skip, meaning you skip the last mushroom and land at the cave exit, compared to getting a very low trick on the last mushroom, saves at least 50 milliseconds, if not more if the last trick is worse if you aren't able to skip it. It was great to see Blaze get back in the mix here and improve his time during the increase in activity here this month. Congratulations on your improvement here, Blaze. 2 days later, on April 24th, Luke would claim the world record here for the first time, beating Blaze's world record by 105 milliseconds, with a time of 1:41.143. This run uses the hopless gorge mushroom strategy I described previously on laps 1 and 2, and utilizes the spin drifting mushroom gap strategy on lap 3 to close out the run. Luke comments he originally started playing this track to get back on the worldwide top 10. After starting attempts, he realized that the new hopless gap method may be able to contend with the world record. Commenting on this run, Luke said the run overall had decent driving and the lap 1 in this run was the best known split for the hopless mushroom strategy at the time this record was set. But this was due to going in between the mushroom stalks at the end of the lap, which saves a decent amount of time. I had to slow this down to show you all how precise this maneuver is. It looks super cool and it's super precise. I asked Luke, and going for the landing in between the mushroom stalks is not his intent on each run, it depends on his alignment. However, as mentioned, it does save a decent amount of time versus going to the right of the furthest mushroom stalk. In either scenario, I'd like to highlight what I believe is one of the main reasons why this mushroom strategy is viable against the previous strategy of doing the spin drifting mushroom gorge hop all 3 laps. It lies in this right here, the mini turbo. Being able to land, wait until the mushroom boost has worn off, then release the mini turbo into your wheelie has several benefits. The biggest one obviously being you have an entire main turbo boost into laps 2 and 3, which is a large amount of time save in of itself. Other benefits some may not realize is, if you noticed before, I described how precise it is to land from the spin drift method, maneuver between the gorge wall and the mushroom stalks, and be able to do a single hop into a wheelie in quick succession to both maintain maximum speed by the time the mushroom boost wears off, and have an optimal alignment into the first turn for laps 2 and 3. By holding your main turbo now with the hopless method, you get the main turbo boost benefit, and you have more leeway when setting up your alignment into the first turn of laps 2 and 3. At this time, it appears it is still fastest to do the spin drifting Mushroom Gorge hop to complete the run at the end of lap 3, which is what the current records are doing now as of this month. To describe briefly, to execute this mushroom method, once you shroom, you need to be holding as hard right as possible before you're airborne over the gap to make this work. I've tried learning this myself in late April and the beginning of May, and apart from that quick succession of the analog movement, your positioning of when you start your drift and how you line yourself are also factors into making this work. And pushing it to the absolute limit like this that these players are starting to do is very difficult from what I have found at least. Luke mentions his only major error in this run was lap 2 missing the mushroom skip, which he says lost close to 100 milliseconds in comparison to the trick he had to do as a result. Luke mentions the potential of this strategy with the best splits currently equal a 140.853 as of the day I asked him for his feedback, and says he will more than likely aim for a 140 here. Congratulations on your improvement this month, Luke. At the end of this month, on April 30th, we had a third player enter the mix here. Justin beat Luke's world record here this month by 20 milliseconds, with a time of 141.123. When I mentioned earlier that I think some players already have personal records here with this mushroom strategy, I believe Justin was one of those players. Justin did not have any comments for this run, but in comparison to Luke's record here, Justin was able to perform the mushroom skip on all 3 laps, which was an opportunity for time save over Luke's record, as we went through earlier with Luke missing it in the lap 2 of his run. A little bit of a bonus here, you're looking to land at the very edge of the second mushroom here on the white border if you're trying to execute the mushroom skip. If you look at all these world records, you find this to be consistent, and I have personally found it the same way when trying attempts myself. Congratulations to you, Justin, on claiming the world record here as well this month. This was a really exciting month for a strategy change here, and I anticipate much more activity here in the months to come. Now we return to some more glitch activity this month, this time on DS Desert Hills. Just like on Mushroom Gorge, we had 3 players setting world records here this month. Starting off on April 22nd, David reclaimed the world record here, beating Logan's previous world record by 64 milliseconds, with a time of 131.398. David comments that this was a very sloppy run for him, noting he was still battling some nerves throughout this run due to failing a 131.2 pace run at the last turn of lap 3, around 15 minutes prior to this record here. He said he was half trying and not expecting much, as he had a horrific lap 1 turn before the double trick. But aside from that, the lap was driven well. Lap 2 was an excellent lap for David, but unfortunately missed a slip on the last turn and had a bad recovery, losing almost 200 milliseconds. On lap 3, he was extremely nervous and just wanted to clutch out the run, playing the last turn very safe, but had lost a bit of time due to how long he held the last main turbo for. Overall, he was just happy to reclaim the world record here, and mentions this is the first world record here to go to the right of the lap 3 fire snake after the glitch rather than the left, which turned out to be a considerable amount of time save and was far easier as well, and feels that this will make the sub 131 easier in the long run. 3 days later, we had Breakson throw hands on DS Desert Hills and got into the mix here, beating David's world record by 21 milliseconds, with a time of 131.377 on April 25th. Breakson comments lap 1 is the only good lap in this run, with no major mistakes, which was a win for him. The lap 2 glitch was angled a bit too far to the left, so a perfect glitch recovery was very unlikely, but still got a decent one however. He mentions getting a weird double trick followed by a not so great hill section, which made the lap bad, mentioning a lap 2 and a decent run here should always be at least a high 30.3 lap. Onwards to lap 3, it started off fine and had a good glitch and glitch recovery, but unfortunately when he did the slip drift after to get the wheelie out, he got a tiny bounce which prevented him from doing the wheelie right away. And by the time he got the wheelie out, his boost had pretty much ran all the way out, losing a good chunk of time. Apart from that, the rest of the lap was fine except the missed slip drift before the hills losing a bit of time. And mentions the last turn was wacky, but still clutched out the run. Braxton overall is happy he got the world record here while he could, even if it did last for around 16 hours, and does not plan on returning here again for the world record. And you did hear that right, ladies and gentlemen. Less than 24 hours after Braxton set his run, David would reclaim the world record a second time, with a large improvement of 270 milliseconds, with a time of 1:31.107. David comments lap 1 was nice, with a 30.3 lap 1 without the lucky glitch, which is a strong opening lap, but he did lose time on the wide slip entering the hills, and his wheelie speed dropping to 92 km per hour on the last turn. Now, if you guys are wondering what a lucky glitch is, give this a watch. Now, I definitely tried to explain what exactly a lucky glitch is here in this series a while ago, but I did not have a visual for it, so let's explain what's happening here briefly. You're looking at this correctly. From how it has been explained to me, there is a pixel of the out of bounds where you're able to be shot off it and get propelled upwards, which saves a considerable amount of time over the normal glitch method, which lands in the sand, getting slowed down, and needing to re-accelerate with a recovery mini turbo to return to top speed. Both David and Logan commented that a lucky glitch saves around 500 milliseconds a lap, and that is very apparent in the comparison here. From what I've been told, players here also try to time their mushroom before clipping the wall to have a favorable chance at landing at the proper spot for this to work. This is the first world record here to have a lucky glitch in a run, and the first sub 30 lap in a run as well using this, as previous world records here many years ago used 2 mushrooms in a lap to achieve a sub 30-second lap here. David mentions on lap 3 he was too fast to take the normal glitch route due to the fire snakes, so he had to go to the right of the tree, which in of itself loses around 200 milliseconds over going to the left as you normally would. What is even more crazy is David goes on to mention that this is actually his first time ever making the glitch going to the right of the tree. David explains the clip after going to the right of the tree is exceptionally harder than it is going to the left of it. And honestly, just looking at both methods, it really makes sense. Going to the left of the tree, your alignment is dead center for the wall, as opposed to the angle from the right side of the tree, and looks a lot more difficult to pull off as a result. David estimates the recovery from the glitch lap 3 lost around 600 milliseconds, where the mini turbo would not charge. And combined with this and going to the right of the tree, he had lost more time than he had gained with the lucky glitch on lap 2. So he was not sure what pace he was on at this point in the run. Even with all that being said, David was able to manage to drive nicely throughout the rest of the run and clutched out the world record by a sizable margin. Even with that last turn being angled far to the left, David has had a best pace with 2 lucky glitches of 29.990 and 29.901, and without any lucky glitches, a best pace of 33.42 and a 32.31. Mentioning being on paces even without lucky glitches, where he has been too fast to avoid the fire snakes before the glitch, where he has unfortunately lost his runs to, posing as a huge obstacle to get a 130 here, but it will help regardless. He mentions the ideal pace to give yourself the best chance of that is a 30.4, followed by a 30.2 into lap 3. David closes his comments with mentioning he is going to have a break from this track, but fully intends on coming back at some point. Now, one day after this record, we had Logan playing this in April to reclaim the world record, narrowly missing the sub 131 with a time of 1:31.016 on April 26. Logan wanted to focus his comments on optimizations for this run. Something you may not consider just looking at these runs is the timing that the players are releasing their main turbo and the timing of the hop to propel themselves deep into the off-road for the wall clip on all 3 laps. The further you land in the road, the more time you're saving as you'll be closer to the wall and can execute your mushroom faster, as opposed to falling into the road earlier and being at a slower speed longer before you're close enough to pull off the clip. He used a new strategy up the middle of the road on lap 3 going in between the fire snakes without being hit and having a favorable alignment to pull off the wall clip on lap 3 and being able to get around the fire snakes with the recovery on lap 3. Apart from this run in particular, when we were discussing the lucky glitches before, Logan actually had a run that barely missed beating David's 131.107 that also got a lucky glitch in the run as well. There's more work to be done here by the looks of it this month. The current best known splits for all lucky glitches is a time of 129.544, and without lucky glitches is a time of 130.446. Congratulations to David, Breakson, and Logan on all of their respective improvements this month. Wrapping it up this month, we had more glitch activity, this time on Grumble Volcano. Niyaki is back at it again, having a big improvement over his 16.332 world record, set back in January of this year by 127 milliseconds, with a time of 16.205 on April 22nd. Niyaki made a tweet regarding his run, and as always, with the help of handy Google Translate, Niyaki comments, "Yeah, update. I regret that I went out on the second lap, but I'm glad I could update it for the first time in a while. I'll do more." And 2 days after this, he did not improve, but he got insanely close with a 16.283, which was 169 milliseconds ahead of the new world record of 16.205 into lap 3, with an unfortunate lap 3 by the looks of it. At this point for Grumble Volcano, it looks like it comes down to optimizing the mushroom entry and maintaining as much speed as possible drifting around the rock, and getting favorable airtime for the mushrooms to end the run and not getting any air pockets. In runs in the past here, it looks like your mushroom boost is eaten slightly. If you shroom in, I guess I could call it like a dead zone, I suppose, with airtime, which prevents you from getting up to maximum speed right away. The current best known splits give a time of 15.502 as of today's upload date. I think we will see a 15-second time here down the line from Niyaki if he continues to do more attempts. And if anyone is up for the task, it would definitely be Niyaki. Congratulations on your improvement this month. And that's all, folks. That was a ton to go through, guys. I hope you all enjoyed this month of review as much as I did. April 2020 matched October 2018's world record activity, with 18 world records across 8 tracks this month. I really did not expect that amount to be hit again. What an epic month for activity this was indeed. This month's activity really helped the activity of 2020 overall so far, with 43 world records in total set so far in the first 4 months of 2020. And for comparison, 2019 had 50 world records in the first 4 months, and 2018 had 40 world records in the first 4 months. 2020 is continuing to be an exciting year this year for world record activity, and I'm sure a lot more exciting records will be on the way for the rest of the year. I wanted to mention a few quick things before wrapping up the video. In April, the world record history for GCN DK Mountain was updated. Back in 2015, Spitfire set a time of 2 minutes 860, which was a pending world record since then at the time. From what I understand, this was due to Spitfire not having much history or progress at the time, which raised suspicion. In April, he set a time of 2 minutes 477, which is now 5th worldwide in CTGP, and sent the ghost data for his 2 minute 860 record to be analyzed. Based upon demonstrating his abilities on the track and sending the ghost data, his time was cleared out of pending and slotted at the time when he set this run, which was December 14th of 2015. Details regarding this will be linked in the description below. Second, some of you may have heard, but there is now an official bounty for someone to humanly pull off the Rainbow Road Ultra shortcut. There are 2 bounties, being the first person to complete a lap with a glitch that beats the current fast lap world record of 47.050, and a bounty if the first ever glitch is also a 3-lap world record. The runs must be driven on CTGP with game modifications disabled, and the ghost must be directly uploaded to the CTGP ghost database. Further details for the bounty are in the description below. This should definitely generate a lot of excitement and incentive for people to attempt this. I've definitely noticed more people going for this now, and I'm sure before too long down the road this will be done. And lastly, recently there has been a new game mode in the works that is time trial related. It is Time Trials Online. Briefly, you're racing in either worldwide races or doing fun rooms with other players, and your opponent's collision is disabled. You spawn with 3 mushrooms like a time trial, and you are orientated at the start line like a time trial. This has been so much fun, guys, to do this on stream, not only for myself but many others as well, from both a participation standpoint and a viewing standpoint. There is more in the works currently to make this even better, and I'd like to personally thank Melg and the other coders that are helping Melg as well to make this game mode a reality. Eventually, this mode will hopefully have integration within CTGP, which at that point both myself and Sword of Seals are already planning on making a tournament for this, which I'm very excited about. As always, I'd like to thank you all for watching, and always hope you guys enjoy the videos created for the channel. If you like videos like these and want to see more like this, please do give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already, to keep up with the newest uploads. Thank you all once more, and I hope you all are continuing to stay safe and healthy out there during this time period for us all right now. I'll be seeing you all next month, where we will review the monthly world record activity for May 2020. Take care.